Good evening, good afternoon, good morning. This is Sam Dosa, business coach and a mentor and burnout specialist. And my co-host, Jennifer Buman White, um, emotional freedom specialist, a vibrant lady. She is starting a Live with Authentic uh, uh, group, which she's going to talk about more. But we have an excellent and a dynamic guest today. His name is Anthony Taylor, and he is a expert in stress and what I call it the resilience. So up to you, Jen. Please introduce my guest, please. Our guest.
Fabulous. Thank you so much, Sam. Sam is an amazing business and life coach. Obviously, he says he specializes in burnout, and I think we've actually introduced ourselves several times over these on these interviews. And I'm just going to go straight into our vision for the show, which is designed to provide a resource of learning and inspiration for business owners who are passionate about their business and want to make a difference in the world. And I think that is totally in alignment with our guest this evening. But before we go to our guest, I'd like to just do a bit of what I call housekeeping. If you're watching this and if you're watching the replay, please share, like, make your comments. If you're watching live, you can put your comments in. And even the doggy, he can put his comments in as well if he's got some questions. Just make sure you can, if you can hear us, put down you can hear us. And if you're where you're watching from as well, so we know how far-reaching this is, even on the replay. So and as we're going through as well, just put your questions in, and we'll be able to answer them as we go along. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Anthony, our wonderful guest, Anthony Taylor, who is, he calls himself the mental skills and talent coach. Is that correct, Anthony?
That's right, yeah. Sorry about Ed. My partner's just come home from work, so he's got a bit excited.
Oh, that's nice. That's nice. What's his name?
Ed,
the dog. I remember Ed the horse. Anyway, I shall continue. Okay, so following a 20-year career in PR and marketing, both nationally and internationally, as well as being a small business owner, Anthony brings his experience with formal training as a coach, facilitator, and trainer, helping ambitious people and teams achieve more than they thought themselves capable of. He specializes in mental skills and talent development. He's also an author, and he's a CrossFit expert, wherever that may be. We'll find out in a moment. And the topic he's going to be talking to us about tonight is the importance of mindset and dealing with stress. So, Anthony, welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Jen. Thank you, Sam, for having me on the show.
Oh, finally, we've had a few techie problems, but I thought Mercury was out of retrograde, but apparently his tail end is hanging on there with all the communications problems.
That's quite interesting. You're talking about retrograde, yeah? Still.
Yes. Okay, still hanging on. Okay, so Anthony, could you just sort of outline for us, one of the questions we always ask is, were you always interested in business or passionate about business? Tell us a bit about your journey.
Yeah, I think I always was. I started out about sort of 18, 19, obviously wanted to get into business. But somebody along a really good family friend of mine called Barry Pelmore, he introduced me to personal development and the likes of Brian Tracy and Zig Ziglar and those guys back when I was 18, 19. And that really sort of struck a chord for me. That's when I started to get interested in about business and about maybe working for myself. So I started out at university on a business degree for about 2 years on a 4-year course. And after 2 years, I got really bored and I thought, you know what, I actually want to get my hands dirty. So I left university, set my own business up, marketing security products and other things to students and getting into network marketing. And that started up my journey in business, really.
Oh, fantastic. So from there, what sort of led you to what you're doing right now in terms of mental skills? I mean, why is that actually important in business?
Well, I think what it was interesting is I did that for about 18 months. I was doing it fairly successfully. So I paid off my student loan and I was running a car and paying my way and paying my parents' rent and all those kind of things. And then, if I'm being honest, I failed to stick at it. I didn't show enough perseverance and patience to really develop it. And I got a bit frustrated. I probably set goals that are way beyond where I was realistically able to get to. So I got a bit frustrated and I closed down the business and went into public relations because somebody said I'd be good at that. So, and I was, and I went and did a good career in that for a few years. And then after about 4 or 5 years, I got bored of that. And as we were just chatting before, Jen, I then had an opportunity to go and turn around a failing business in the Caribbean. So I flew out to the Caribbean, Turks and Caicos Islands. I didn't know anyone on the island. And that's when I started to learn about perseverance and commitment and a lot of some of the tough mental resilience traits that I would need. Managed to turn around this business over the next 3 to 4 years and successfully, and wrote a book while I was out there, got married and other things, and then came back to the UK. Came back to the UK, really thought my career would take off, got all this experience, and I really struggled. And I really struggled for about 9 months, could not get a job anywhere, and ended up going back to PR and starting back down at the bottom of the ladder, and then having to show some of that mental toughness skills to build my career back up again. Did that for another 5 or 6 years, again, fairly successful, got to head of corporate PR for some big companies that most people heard of, and got frustrated with that. And I'd always been fascinated by the mental toughness aspect, having been a very keen sportsman and played rugby and other things to a fairly high amateur level. And so it just sort of seemed a logical progression, really, to then renew my efforts on a second career into something that I was really passionate about, which was coaching and training and developing people in and around mental toughness and resilience.
So in terms of mental toughness, what exactly is it? You're talking about mental, it sounds like a really hard thing to do. Like you really have to be like mean and, you know, really sort of aggressive. And is it that? Is it like that?
It isn't. It's absolutely the opposite. So most of us will tend to have heard about mental toughness when it comes to sports people and that kind of thing. But actually it's not. We all have it. We're all born with a degree of resilience, and our resilience can be developed through applications and tools and techniques and training and things. But also it can wane. So when we find ourselves under chronic stress, and Sam with his expertise as a burnout coach will know that, when we get ourselves under chronic stress, we become less resilient. So what I tend to focus on is about giving people the tools and techniques to build their resilience up, so that when they're faced with challenging times, they can have that resilience, that they can deal with it, deal with that stressful situations. It isn't about being tough. One of the common fallacies is all about being macho and male, and it's all sports dominated. That's absolutely not the case. You know, there are many thousands and millions of very strong women out there who, you know, it's just not about being male. You know, if you think of some of the strong women of our time, Mother Teresa, you know, Winnie Mandela, all these really strong women. History is littered with, so it's not about being male, it's not about muscles or being mean, quite the opposite. Some of the most strong people I know weigh about 11 stone and are
exactly
male or female. So yeah, it's not about.
Fabulous. So what are we going to learn from you tonight? Have you got some tips on mental toughness? How, you know, a few things that we can actually take on board from your training, you know, for us tonight, that we can actually incorporate into our life or our business?
Yeah, absolutely. I've got several things I'd like to try and share with people, certainly around mindset and dealing with stress, and how the mindset that we have when we think about what causes us stress, when we start to look at that, what causes us stress differently, then we can start to really embrace a different mindset. And that can hugely help us in dealing with it and not letting the stress have those negative effects that we tend to think about it. So I'd like to talk a little bit about how that mindset can help people.
Fabulous. So tips, what is it you've got for us?
Crikey, a whole range of things, really. I think it's about.
Okay, so let's start with the shifting of the mindset then. What because you're saying if you look at the stress differently, how can you look at the stress differently?
I think the key is to think about, when we think about what causes us stress, there must be some kind of a meaning attached to it. And when we realize that there's a meaning attached to it, then we can start to understand that a little better and use that. So if you don't care about something, then the chances are you don't get stressed about it. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
There must be some meaning attached to it. Now, we tend to get stressed because of two psychological underlying factors. One is the need for approval, and the second one is the need to be in control. And when we don't feel we have someone's approval, and these are hardwired in us when we're at birth through thousands of years of evolutionary development. If we go back to the time when we were living in caves and working in tribes, we needed the security of working together in a tribe to survive. And if you got kicked out of the tribe, the chances are your life expectancy was much more reduced. So we're hardwired as human beings to seek approval and to work with people in the tribe. And when that feels threatened, then we feel quite stressed. So losing or the fear of loss of approval is a big source of stress. And the other one then is that the need to be in control. And that can be in a way of either needing to feel like we're right. So a lot of arguments come down to I'm right, you're wrong. And that causes stress. Or the need to be perfect. We're surrounded by this culture, especially in the West, where we're comparing ourselves all the time, ironically through social media or magazines or TVs to people who've got millions of pounds or perfect bodies or perfect faces or whatever it might be. So there's that need to be perfect. And then there's the need to feel in control. And when we don't feel in control, or we're uncertain about what the world, or we're uncertain about our jobs, or whether somebody loves us, or whatever that might be, that uncertainty causes a huge amount of stress because we don't feel in control.
Oh, that's also involved with the emotional intelligence as well.
Yes,
so
absolutely, Sam.
What you are referring over here in the mental stress, we are looking at how you control your emotions. If you have the ability to control your emotions and actions, then you will be apart from other people, correct?
Absolutely, Sam. I think that self-awareness is key. And that's what I spend a lot of time with people, is helping them develop that self-awareness of what is it that's causing them stress, and then why does that cause them stress? So when you think about common things that might cause you stress, such as, say, family issues or family dynamics, especially if you've got teenage kids, perhaps, then when you start to connect your source of stress with what you care about, then actually it allows you to access elements of resilience that perhaps you didn't realize you had. So when you connect the source of stress to what you care about, then you can start to and understand that and connect that with your values, then you can start to inoculate yourself or be able to deal with a lot more stress. So having that self-awareness is really key, that emotional intelligence.
Yeah. So the thing which you actually touch upon, the values, you tell me how many people does know their own values? Are we living our values, or we are living with somebody else's values?
Absolutely. I think that's it. I think a lot of people don't take the time to really think about what are my values. And it's ironic because when we start to live in a way that's against our values, then actually that becomes hugely stressful for us, but we don't take the time to stop and think. And that's where having coaches like myself and you guys can really help somebody, is that it gives them time to stop and think and help through the coach to reflect on what are their values, why might they be feeling stressed about certain things, and have that emotional intelligence. And I think you touched on something, Sam, when you talked about once you can manage your emotions, then you can change your behaviors. What comes before that is our thoughts. That's self-talk.
Yes, exactly.
So it's getting the self-talk right. And that's really important when it comes to improving our resilience, our mental toughness, to allow us to manage emotions.
Yeah, it all starts with the mindset. Your mind, your thoughts creates your feelings and emotions. Your emotions create your actions create your results, and then it goes round in the cycle. And the way you break it is right here. Yeah, absolutely. And talking about values as well, the one of the most important tools I use in my practice is my values comparison chart. And people really do not know whether or not, first of all, they don't know their core values, and secondly, they don't know if their values are aligned with what their goals are, what they're trying to achieve. And yes, definitely that would cause huge friction and stress. Definitely.
It does. I was working with a large organization recently, training a few hundred of their staff around this, and one lady came to me almost in tears saying that she was having an issue where her boss and her got on really, really well. They had a great working relationship, but her boss was quite mean to some of the other staff. And because that went against her values, but she didn't feel, she didn't have the courage at the time to say something, because she was worried, that uncertainty bit about losing that her boss's approval and then them having that nasty dynamic. Worried about the lack of or loss of approval, and she was worried about the uncertainty of what if she dealt with it. But it got to the point where, because she could see what was happening, and it went fundamentally against her values of fairness and integrity and respect, that she was making herself physically ill. So she would wake up in the morning dreading going to work. And here's a woman who's passionate about her job, but such stress because not dealing with it. So she spent some time with me, did a bit of a coaching session, and she found then the courage to go and deal with it. And I said to her, well, how are you living against your values by not dealing with it? So she dealt with the situation, and although it was a little bit awkward, there was some resolution to it, and she's gone back to feeling a lot happier. But it was because she was living against the values, like you were talking about, Jen, that was causing that stress.
Exactly. And this is why it's so important to, because a lot of people don't understand what coaches do for people. They think we just have a chat, but we need to know what the right questions are to have that conversation. So, yeah, I mean, what we do is really important. So is there another tip that you can help us with? So if we can find maybe another couple of tips on dealing with resilience and toughness in the workplace.
I think there's three key things when it comes to thinking about being stressed. There's something about, when you want to change that, there's three things to focus on. One is to change your perception of something, and we'll look at a tool to do that. The second thing is to change actually your physiology about it, how you're feeling, and my tension and so on. And the third thing is to actually do something about the problem. So if we take those three things, changing your perception, your physiology, and your doing something about it, changing your perception around it is that's really key. When you start to change your perception around it, we've just touched at that, then you start to, there's that saying, isn't it? When you change what you look at changes.
Look at changes, yes.
And that's where working with a coach, we need to think about. So I ask myself two questions. The first one is, okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being death, how important is this right now, this thing, whatever it is, whether it's stuck in traffic, whether it's having an argument with somebody at work. And I usually say, you know what, it's about 2 or 3. It's not that important. So instantly I've gone, well, actually, I can start to go, okay, it's not that important. And then I follow it up with another question that says, 6 months from now, how important is this likely to be? And I always say, I'm not even going to remember this. So some person puts me up on the motorway, or there's a massive pile of laundry and the house is a mess. And I go, on scale of 1 to 10, 10 being death, it's a 1. And 6 months from now, I'm not even going to think about it. So as soon as I ask myself those two questions, I change my perception towards what's causing me stress. And I can go, okay. So, and often now I've been doing it so long that I just usually say, on a scale of 1 to 10, and I go, okay. And I'm
it's gone. I love that. On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being death. I've never heard that before. And it just like, as you're saying it, I'm thinking, wow, that is really powerful, because how important can something be if it's, it's not that important.
I've really got to, I don't think I've ever got to above a 4. So those are two quick questions. So that's the power of questions, and that's where a good coach can help you. So those two questions help me reframe what I'm looking at. They change my perspective on it. And then sometimes I change my physiology. Now to do that, there's loads of breathing techniques out there. So I think my suggestion to people watching this is try the different ones out there and find one that works for you. But one that works for me and one that seems to work for a lot of my people, it's called the 4 square breathing technique. And you literally breathe in to fill up your lungs for a count of 4. You hold that full chest for 4 seconds, and then you breathe out over a count of 4. And you hold that empty chest for another count of 4. So it's 4 square. 4 in, 4 out, 4 hold, 4 out, 4 in. And that's what they teach to Navy SEALs and SWAT teams when they're going into a combat situation or they're in a combat situation. It allows them to calm their emotional response down while still being able to think clearly. And that's the really important. Still accessing your, and it's great because in a stressful situation, you can do it at work at your desk and no one needs doing it.
No, absolutely. It's brilliant.
And once you've done that cycle a couple of times, and it takes you less than a minute, you'll start to really feel your physiology, your heart rate coming down a bit, but you're still thinking clearly.
Fabulous. And then the third one you're saying was doing something. Sorry.
Yes, so doing something. And that comes down to simply this. It's what I call the 50% rule. You can only control what we think, our thoughts and our behaviors. We can't control anyone else, and we can't control other things outside of that. We can influence other people, hopefully, but by being perfect for your 50%, by taking complete accountability for what you can do, your thoughts, your behaviors, your actions, then you can start to do something about the problem. So focus on what you can do to whatever it is, not what you want somebody else to do or you
somebody
wish
else to do.
different. Focus on your 50%. Take a solutions mindset. Okay, what can I do here? What have I done in the past? What strengths can I bring in? What attitudes can I bring? What can I physically do to change the problem? And if there's really nothing you can do to change it, then you need to accept it or walk away. But focus on what you can do about it would be my advice.
Absolutely. Fabulous.
Yeah.
So Sam, have we
I
got any
think,
questions or comments that have come up? Sorry.
yeah, most of the people, I think they are afraid to come out from that mindset. Because I think the belief, what sort of a belief a person can have within themselves can create quite a significant resolutions or resilience in them, because certain degree of time that we want to do a lot of things, and actually most of the time we are trying to help others with their problems instead of helping ourselves to achieve better result. Because I think it's a human nature to help others. When somebody says to me, I have a lot of problems, but I rather solve your problems instead of solving my own problems.
Yeah.
I said that's completely against what you are saying, because if you are not completely honest and authentic to yourself, how can you be able to support somebody else clearly in that way? And then you're creating additional stress for not only for yourself, for all other people who are surrounding you. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's like
And
the
that,
analogy,
again,
isn't it, Dan? When you go on a plane, and what's the one thing they say? If the gas mask drop, put your own on first, and then help somebody else. You're no use to your children or your loved ones or wherever if you can't breathe. So you've got to put your gas mask on first. And I think we live in a society in the West, perhaps more so than in the East, where we don't take the time to sit and be and reflect and actually. People got a view that actually it's selfish. Well, I don't think it's selfish. I think it's self-full. And I think, like you said, you can only give a limited amount to other people if you're not looking after yourself. I always just say this with my partner. We need to look after ourselves as individuals first. Then we need to look after our relationship. And then we look after the kids. Now, the kids are hugely important. But if we don't look after ourselves, our relationship, there's going to be no one left to look after the kids.
Absolutely. That was again my key area when I gone through with the same journey of having to lose my marriage and everything, and that was a key criteria in that marriage, was that if I was healthy enough to look after myself, then I was be able to help my kids and the other things in my life, and that's created what I am right now. Otherwise, I would have been on a completely different life. I wouldn't be standing over here. What you are saying actually making a significant point in people's life to understand that if they are healthy, if they are have a full good health and good understanding and the mindset, then they will be able to support anybody who comes to them. Other than that, actually, they are also walking, talking time bomb themselves.
Yeah. Absolutely. And it's interesting because when we think about the stress responses, most of us will know about fight, flight, and freeze, those three stress responses. Well, actually, what science is now showing us the last few years is that there are at least three other stress responses. And that's the challenge response. So when we feel passionate about something, we're in that kind of flow, something that's challenging us, but we're enjoying doing it. That's the challenge response. And that helps us focus. It gives us courage. It gives us that energy that we need. The other one, which you're kind of alluding to, Sam, is the tend and befriend response. So we're social human beings. When we see somebody else in distress, we want to go and help. And that's why people put themselves in harm's way to go and help somebody else. But what we need to do, as you're saying, Sam, and I agree with, is we need to look after ourselves first so that we can give the most to other people.
Yeah. And there's another thing which I want to add over here, Anthony. Even if you are a first aider, for example, you are bound with the code of conduct. Also, if you are a first aider, you have insurance and everything. You have to be very careful who do you support on the road, because they might turn around and they might sue you. And you have to be very thoughtful about it. and it's all about how you want to see things come out. We are humans. We want to help others. We want to make sure that if somebody falls down, we're trying to help them. But again, it's human. What I call it, we have to be thoughtful about it. I'm saying that we are all humans, and we are not angels over here. And mistake happens in life. And coming together as a human and working on how you are describing, working towards being being resilient to your own self first, then you will be able to help others.
Yeah. And it's great because in my line of work with what I do around stress, mental toughness, that kind of thing in the corporate world, I'm increasingly seeing organizations starting to realize that if they want to get the best from their staff, then they need to support them. So I spend a lot of my time in organizations working with people, teaching them these kind of things, these techniques and things, to allow people to perform at their best, whilst also maintaining and looking after their well-being. So it's great to see organizations starting to take that seriously and giving people the tools and techniques before they get to a point where they're really stressed.
Yeah, it is nice to see organizations doing that more, actually, because it is a legal requirement for a business to actually take care of the welfare of the staff, and so many have been ignoring it, and so many in employment have been too scared to even question their employers about it because they don't want to lose their job. So it was like a double whammy, but at least now they know that if they have a happy staff, they have happy staff, especially front-facing staff, front of house facing staff, then they have happy customers, and the customers will come back, and then obviously profits will improve. So yeah, everybody wins if you look after your staff, and then be mindful of your employees. Yeah.
And I think this is where businesses are starting to take a lead a bit more from sport. Business has always been fascinated by sport and that sort of elite sport athletes, but you wouldn't see a top sports team just run their athletes into the ground and train them 10 hours a day and not give them suitable rest and provision. And so no, they need to look after. You wouldn't, all the horses from the recent Grand National, they are cosseted and looked after and trained and rested, well fed, and organizations need to start thinking about their staff as athletes, because at the end of the day, we only have so much energy in any given day to be able to manage. And if that's depleted because of high amounts of stress all the time without the cycle of rest, stress is a good thing. It gives us that more stress is a bit like a bodybuilder. He builds up his muscles by working them to the point of failure, and then he rests and the muscles repair and get stronger and they get bigger. And that's what we need to do psychologically as well, is put ourselves under the stress, but give ourselves the recovery time, and that allows us to build higher, but you need the recovery. You can't ask people to work flat out at a high level.
No.
Fabulous.
No.
Fabulous.
So in your view, sorry, Jen, I just have to ask this question. In regards to good stress and the bad stress, so because as I'm a burnout specialist, people ask me, what do you think about why I'm burning out? Or what is your bad stress and what is the good stress? Because good stress make you go further in your field and you stronger your muscle, but bad stress will kill you, actually, literally. So in your view, what is the definition, or what is the understanding of a good stress and the bad stress?
The good stress is when you feel engaged with what you're doing, you can feel passionate about it, you can see the benefit that you're providing, so you don't mind being challenged, you're quite focused, even if you end up being quite tired. When stress becomes bad is when we don't see any meaning. So when there's no meaning attached to what's causing us stress, or we can't see that meaning or connect with it, then that can become very, very stressful. So that's it. When there's a lack of meaning, when we feel isolated away from other people, so when we feel isolated in our stress, that can be really issue. And that's why I think social media, ironically, we're on Facebook and so on, can sometimes be bad. When I see younger generation especially, and they are on social media, but they're not connecting physically with somebody else right next to them. They're not getting the same feelings. They're isolated on their phones the whole time, but they're not having that emotional, physical connection of being with somebody else, of looking at their facial expressions, of talking, of just being close to somebody. So when we feel isolated within our stress, or we feel like we're on our own and there's no support network for us, that can be bad. And when there's no let up as well, when we compare ourselves constantly to other people. So, and again, when we allow ourselves to compare ourselves, there's no point. The only thing is compare yourself against you, compare yourself to how were you yesterday, and try and be a little bit better for whatever that means the next day or today. Don't compare, because there's always going to be somebody who's taller, better looking, more money, whatever it might be. There's no point comparing yourself to somebody else. But so that's when stress is bad. When there's no meaning attached to it. When we feel isolated in our stress there's no support network, and when we compare ourselves to other people.
Fabulous. This is a really important discussion we're having here tonight. Could we sort of turn around and look at your passion for business? So in terms of your business side of things and your ups and downs and back and forth, is there anything that you can recall where you had your stresses and strains around building your business?
Yeah, I think definitely. I think a couple of times. So when I had the business back in just after I left university that I talked about, that was going well. But what I hadn't lacked, again, coming to values, was I hadn't really identified my why. I hadn't really identified what was the purpose behind that, which meant that I got frustrated and I found it quite stressful. And I was setting these ridiculously challenging goals, comparing myself to other people and where I thought I should have been. And that's why I think I quit. I lacked the emotional intelligence, Sam, that we talked about earlier on, if I'm being honest, at 19, 20.
Yes.
To do that. And then this time round, I had some pretty stressful times when I was an employee within business, in this kind of middle management sphere, if you like, and that's quite stressful. And again, some of that came to comparing myself as to where I thought I should be and not living and behaving in line with my values, because I didn't take the time to really think about what those were. And then lastly, around what's ironic is that since launching this business that I'm doing now around my coaching and training, the first bit is quite tough. When you're starting out as a new consultant, you've got to build your network, you've got to get known, you've got to win new clients. So it can be quite stressful financially. You're thinking about, oh my God, where's the next paycheck going to come from? Where's the next paycheck? But while there's a financial stress to that, because I was so connected with what I was doing, because I was so passionate about it, it was a different kind of stress. So it's more that
this
challenge.
Is where the meaning comes in, what you were talking about earlier, having a meaning around behind the stress.
I could deal with the financial worries much more easily, and I could persist at it. So it's taken a couple of years, and I had amazing support from my partner for the last couple of years, who's really believed in me as well and supported us financially while I've got the business up and running, and now that's starting to pay dividends. But at no time did I ever feel like it was too much. I've always bounced out of bed really early on a Monday morning. I get up at 5 o'clock in the morning every day now. I'm writing some books that are going to really help people. So I never get to Sunday afternoon and think, oh, I've got to go to work. So it's always been really stress. And that's seen me through the difficult times when, early on in the career, and I was sort of not finding new clients. Now those are starting to come in from word of mouth. So that's really helped. That's where that passion.
So technically, so really, you're walking your talk, because you've been through all the points that you say that the stress was meaningless, and it was like you went aligned with your values, and you felt those stressful times, and now you're actually teaching and being in a different place as well. So you're walking your talk. You've been there, you've done that, and now you're actually living proof that what you're talking about is actually true.
And that's why I tend to focus my sort of ideal clients, where I tend to focus my work is around middle managers, because I understand that. I know what it's like to be a middle manager. And what I mean by middle manager is anyone who manages a people, no matter how many, right up to board level in big organizations. I never got to board level. So that's quite a broad sphere. But middle managers, I think, is the toughest job in business, because we get it down from the top. Top management want this, they want that, want results, and you get it up from the bottom. They're complaining about lack of resources and pressure, and you're stuck in the middle. So it's about your workload, managing yourself. So I really understand that segment, and I think that's where people can connect with me and resonate when I do my workshops and things, is because I can say, look, I've got 20 years of experience of being in that middle management sort of sector, understanding the challenges and stresses and strains and things that people were feeling.
Oh, fabulous. You're doing amazing work. It sounds like you're doing incredible work there. So do we have any comments, any questions coming in, Sam?
No comments. Any comments as yet? Nobody has asked any questions. But the question, what I would like to ask.
Mm.
I got so many questions as well, being a burnout
Yeah,
specialist.
I think that's what's happening is we're saying all the questions and nobody needs to ask them. So that's what's happening.
I hope that's the case.
Yeah. So Anthony, at this present moment, you are running a lot of workshop with corporate clients. Do you see a lot of companies in the corporate client, as I work with corporate clients as well, that we are still looking at our employees as numbers, or they are becoming an ambassadors now? Because when I used to lead the teams, we were just a number in the company. We were not being ambassador, because what I see is the main culprit of stress level within the team or within the company is that you are not being really looked after. You're not being given any values. You're just a number, and they can just strike you off from their payroll. So that create another wave of stress in people's life, in their employees' life. Is there anything has changed? Anything has shifted while you were working in the corporate environment?
I think it is starting to. I think people are starting to understand that they need to look after their staff. It's great to see that mental health is increasing on the agenda in a big way, and I'm being asked to go into organizations and talk and help and support their staff around talking about mental health and having those conversations, which is good, as well as giving them the tools to be able to deal with stress and pressure. And again, like lots of things, it depends on the organization. There's some great organizations that I work with that are really switched on to this, that look after their staff, getting people like me in and providing a wealth of support. And then there are others that really aren't. And they're lagging behind the times, but they're going to pay the price in terms of the bottom line. When they don't do this stuff, profits will be down, turnover of staff will be higher, sickness absence rates are high. So from a business point of view, bottom line profit, then they're going to see a negative impact. So the good companies are ones that are really going to look after their staff. We'll see sustainability, they'll see sickness absence rates drop down, they'll see performance levels rise, and they'll see an impact on their bottom line results, which will be beneficial. But there's a long way to go yet.
Yeah, I can completely understand that.
Okay, so carry on, Sam.
Yeah, go ahead. I was just waiting for you to
fabulous.
Ask another dynamic question.
Another dynamic question. Okay, so you, how can people actually get hold of you? I know we're coming up towards the end, but what you're doing is such a special thing to do, and I think it's really, really important. So how can people get hold of you to actually engage you to do the work that you're doing with corporates?
I spend a lot of my time on LinkedIn, so if they just look up Anthony Taylor on LinkedIn, and they should see my picture up there. And Anthony Taylor, mental toughness expert. That's how they'll know it's me. So they connect with me on LinkedIn. I do have a Facebook page, which is the Performance Mind Coaching, Mind Coach. And I'm also on Twitter as well, Ant Taylor 72 on Twitter. But LinkedIn, or I've got a website which is Anthony with an H, Anthony Taylor Ltd.com. So any of those is a good way to get hold of me.
Fabulous. And when people do get hold of you, what's the process? I mean, do you come in and you sort of, do you do bespoke work? You sort of organize something specifically for the teams, or is it a set program? How do you operate?
So I kind of do two. I do run some workshops myself that are open workshops that either individuals can just come to themselves, where I have workshops on different things around mental toughness, around stress resilience or communication skills. But I also, mainly when I do corporate work, I like to keep it bespoke. So my first protocol is to go in, have a conversation to see whether we'd be a good fit working for each other or with each other. Then I like to go in and understand it. So I've just spent some time working with housing associations around the Midlands and in the Northwest. And what I did was go in, understand some of the challenges and things that they were facing, run a couple of focus groups with their staff to find out what's really causing them stress, get it from their word of mouth. What kind of tools and techniques do they already know? What do they feel is what's working, what's not? Because there's no point me going in and delivering a workshop and them saying, well, that's great, but we know this stuff. They maybe need something new. So I always go in and try and understand it, try and see the problem through the client's eyes, understand their world a bit more, and then that will allow me to go and really tailor. Because I wouldn't like to say, descriptive, here's my program, and that will work for everybody, because we're all unique and different. And the challenges, I work right away across different sectors, from banking and automotive and finance, social housing. So while people are people, and we feel stress in many ways, sometimes, and again, it depends on the level in the organization. So when I work with frontline managers, so customer service people, what they're feeling stress will be quite different from if I'm working with heads of department. So it's always, it's always tailored.
Fantastic. And if somebody wanted to, as an individual, wanted to work with you, is there anything you offer in those terms?
So I do work with individuals as well. Funnily enough, I've just had somebody approach me on LinkedIn today. She's feeling quite stressed in her role, lack of resource, feeling undervalued, and wants to know how I can work with her. So obviously when I work with individuals, the rates are much, much lower to make that worthwhile. And I do some one-to-one work with people as well.
Fabulous. And do you have anything that you're offering our audience right now, something special because they're watching us?
Yeah, so mental toughness is something that we can actually measure. Well, there's a brilliant tool out there that actually is a psychological assessment tool that we use, a psychometric tool. Most people will be familiar with those. But this is one that just does their mental toughness, and it compares it to thousands of other people around the world that have taken this. I think over 50,000 people now have taken this test. It's very short, takes about 8 minutes to do. And they allow them to look at the 4 areas of mental toughness. So control, confidence, challenging, commitment, the 4 C's. So if they wanted to do that test and have a 45-minute coaching session with me where we go through their results and I explain it and I'll show them some tools and techniques, instead of being the usual £80 for one-to-one, then I'm quite happy to offer that to them for £40, which is 50%.
Fantastic. Thank you for that offer for our audience. And even at £80, that's quite a good rate, actually.
Well, you get a high quality psychometric tool that's endorsed by the British Psychological Society and used around the world by athletes and leading companies. And then you get half an hour, 45 minutes of my time to explain that and go through it with you. It's great value, even at £80, but it's a steal.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So thank you. So everybody who's watching this, grab it while you can. If you've seen this, get in touch with Anthony and tell him you saw the offer on Believe in Business TV on Facebook. So, and then you'll be able to get it for 50% off, which is amazing. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So, any other questions? Right.
So the question,
any other questions?
I would like to ask Anthony is, what one thing you can tell the audience about creating the resilience in themselves? Because as you said, Monday morning for me, you and for Jen is like a new day, a new beginning and everything. And we are very enthusiastic and we are very in our zone to do things. But this is not for everybody. What one thing you can tell people how they can change that small thing in their mindset, which allows them to create that vibration?
I would say quite a lot of different things that people could focus on. Getting control of your self-talk. I think science has shown us research that we had over something like 60 to 70,000 thoughts a day. And actually the majority of those, huge amount of those, are negative. And it could just be simple things. You lose something, oh, you stupid idiot, why have you done that? But actually all those negative self-talk starts to build up. So really try and be aware of your self-talk. And I spend about half an hour in the morning just listening to various things, starting to improve my self-talk. I recorded them on my iPhone. And I just listen to them every morning, and that starts to put me in a better frame of mind about my, how I can overcome challenges and deal with problems and the successes I've had in the past. And it feeds me that good stuff in the morning. It's like having a good breakfast as opposed to eating junk food. So I'm feeding my mind with the good stuff in the morning. So control your self-talk. And then I think if there's a little quick acronym I could share with people, and that is to go APE. And what I mean by that is not to go bananas, but to think about A, P, and E. APE. And I mean your attitude, thinking about your attitude, controlling your preparation, and then looking at your effort. And when you think about your attitude, your preparation, and your effort, whatever the challenges you face, you remember that about using those 3 things, APE, then you can start to hopefully deal with stress a bit better.
Excellent. Excellent.
Fabulous, fabulous. Thank you so much for that. So now I'm going to get some affirmations on my iPhone. I'm going to eat really good food, and I'm going to go ape. So I'm set for Monday morning.
Fantastic. Good for me.
Can you tell me, ape is attitude,
Preparation.
yeah,
Yeah.
and effort.
Effort.
How much
Yeah.
effort
Yeah.
you put in.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah,
So I'm just
chicken
putting
and
it as a comment, so people can connect. People can actually start using that in the morning.
Yeah, and seeing it. Yeah, doing the behind the scenes stuff on the Be Live.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
I can also share Anthony's LinkedIn profile as well, so people can connect. And Cordelia was join us and said, "Thank you, Anthony, for sharing your wisdom and knowledge, which was very
You're
good."
welcome. I'm glad it
So,
Hi, Cordelia.
Bye.
yep.
Who else have we got?
So, I think Ritu earlier joined us and she didn't say hi, but she was there. And then there was another chap, Jim Johnson from United States. He's also
Yeah.
a coach. I've interviewed him, and he is
Yeah.
also being televised on Winfrey's show and couple of
Okay.
other major television as well. So we will
Right.
bring him
Oh, so we've
as
got
well.
fans.
Yeah. Yes.
We got influencers, fans. Fantastic.
Fantastic.
So we are very
Fantastic.
humbled that Anthony and joined us today, and he shared his wisdom and knowledge with our audience. And we had a really good discussion. And Jen was being as very forceful to dig out all the nuggets from Anthony to share with us. And he has actually shared a lot of insight of how to become tough within yourself or within your mindset to deal with stress. And it's on the rise, mental awareness, and people are going into learning more and more about that. But what Anthony is doing is uh, educating corporates, also individuals who want to learn more about how to become more tough within their mindset to deal with any sort of resilience they feel they can create actually instead of feeling it, because feeling is all about emotional intelligence. And I think we were very humble that Anthony actually accepted our invitation to come along.
Oh, I was excited to. It's brilliant. Well, Sam, you and I got to know each other the last few months, so I was flattered to be asked, and thank you very much.
It's a pleasure.
Yeah,
It's a pleasure.
absolute honor to meet you as well, Anthony. What you're doing, I think, is just so cool. It's just I'm on the case because I believe businesses, small or large, are the ones that are going to change the world, because our politicians aren't doing it, religious leaders aren't doing it that effectively. But as individuals, as business owners, we can have that autonomy to make a difference. And if we're doing it within corporates as well, who are full of individuals, then the world, share the love so that we can be loved, belong, and be free. I took down your thing there. Be loved, belong, and be free, and then we can change the world and make the world a better place than what we found it, than how we found it. So yeah, thank you.
You're
Thanks
welcome.
very much.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us, and thank you for being supporting us in this journey. We are very humble about it, and please do share and do connect with Anthony, myself, and Jennifer if we can be further help to you in any area of your business or your life. We are qualified coaches, and we help as many people we would like to help. We like to help a lot of people actually. And if you think that you are finding anywhere which is important for us to share our knowledge and our experience, we are here to help you. This platform is actually designed to help businesses, business owners, as well as individuals who are thinking of starting a business. So please come along and share this broadcast and love and like this broadcast and support us. So once again, thank you very much and good night for now.
Good night. Bye-bye.
Bye.